Hi everyone, James here and welcome back to another cook on the channel, and today we are doing chorizo and red pepper stuffed pork tenderloin. The pork is one of the most versatile meats you can cook on the barbecue, and the tenderloin, whilst it's quite a lean cut and there's really not a lot of flavour in there, it makes it perfect for adding a stuffing in there to get that real flavour hit with it. Now, the first thing we need to do is prepare the stuffing. We're going to do that in a cast iron skillet, so we're going to cook the stuffing through, let it cool down, and then we'll get it inside the tenderloin. So I have my skillet preheating on the barbecue with a little bit of the Broighter Gold Chilli infused rapeseed oil, and then we're going to cook everything off in that. First thing we're going to go in with is half an onion, which I've just finely diced, and we're going to cook that off until it's soft. We're also going in with one garlic clove, which is just minced finely. Just toss those around in that oil for a few minutes just to start to soften, and then we're going to go in next with a little bit of chorizo. So this is roughly about 120 grams of chorizo, which I've just chopped up into sort of smaller chunks. Tenderloin's quite small, so you don't want to leave these in too big of pieces, but you still want to taste it in there, so don't dice it too fine. So after a few minutes you'll notice that all the oil starts to come out of that chorizo, so we haven't put too much of that rapeseed oil in at the start. It's just enough to flavour the onions and it'll give it a little bit of kick of heat. We're also going in then with some Ancho chili flakes. Now these aren't that hot, they're quite a fruity flavour to them, so they just add a little bit of extra dimension to the dish. So about a teaspoon of the chili flakes in there. Then we're going in with a whole red bell pepper. So I've just again cut this up into smaller chunks, and we'll cook that down in that chorizo onion mixture. So after 5 minutes or so of that cooking away in the skillet, the pepper should start to soften, and everything should sort of reduce down a little bit. We're going to go in there with some breadcrumbs and pine nuts. Breadcrumbs are in there really just to soak up all those flavours that are in the pan. You want that to stay in the stuffing, so all the oil that's cooked out of the chorizo and some of that chili oil, breadcrumbs are going to help soak that all up. Pine nuts are going to give it a little bit of texture, so they're quite soft textures in there at the minute, so the pine nuts will just give a little bit of a crunch to it. And the last thing to go in with then is just a small handful of chopped parsley, just right at the very end before you lift it off. So once the stuffing's cooked all the way through, we need to get it off and cooling while we prepare the pork tenderloin. So we've just got a bowl and we'll lift the skillet off, put it into that and let that cool to the side. So while the stuffing's cooling down, which to be honest won't take very long when the weather's like this, you can get your tenderloin ready. So not a lot of prep involved with the tenderloin, but there usually is a little bit of silver skin and fat on the outside. You want to trim all that off, it's not very nice to eat. So just get your knife in there, watch your fingers, slide it underneath the silver skin and just take it along and take it off piece by piece. And once everything's tidied up, you want to make one long cut along the centre. Don't go the whole way through. The idea is just to butterfly this out. So run your knife along it, tease it out, and then do a second cut on either side of that cut just to flatten it out. And then to give us a little bit more surface area to work with, we want to flatten it completely. So put a piece of cling film over the top of it and then get something heavy, either a meat tenderizer or a good old cast iron skillet, and just pound it out flat. That gives us the maximum area to get flavour onto that with the rub, and also then to get more stuffing in there while we roll it up. So we'll bring you guys in a little bit closer to the chopping board and we will get everything prepared and get it put together and onto the barbecue. So for tenderloin spread out here, we've flattened out as much as we can. First thing we're going to do is hit it with a little bit of rub. So we are using the house rub from Team Keep Her Lit. If you want to check this out, I'll leave links in the description to Neil Mackay's Instagram. You can get in touch with him. So we're just going to give it a nice coating of that first. And that's going to get flavour right into the meat, so it's the first thing it touches. Next up then we're going to grate on some parmesan cheese. Again, just a nice layer over the whole thing. That's all going to melt away and disappear into the meat, but it's just going to add the flavour in there and a little bit of creaminess. Okay, then in with our stuffing. You probably have more stuffing than you need, but keep it, it's actually pretty good mixed in with a few baby boiled potatoes. So just boil them up, throw them into a skillet and mix a little bit of this through them just to crisp the potatoes up a bit. It's an excellent side dish. So just take your stuffing, press it onto it. You're probably going to lose some rolling it up, but get as much on there as you can to start with. Just press it all in flat. So once you're at that stage, then the fun part is trying to get it rolled up. Try and get it as tight as you can. You're only really going to get one roll. It's not going to end up like a traditional roulade where you have it swirled through the center. Just fold one edge over, keep pressing the stuffing in. Now it nicely tucked inside. It's never going to stay like that on the barbecue, so we need to tie it up, or else you can use cocktail sticks to secure it, but I'm going to use a little bit of twine just to hold it all together. This last little flap at the end, if you can try and tease that up and tuck it down inside, and once we tie it, that'll hold everything together. So with the tenderloin all tied up, then we can move it about a little bit easier, and it's all held together. I'm going to hit it with one final dusting of the rub on the outside just to give it a little bit of colour and a little bit of flavour, and then it's time to get it onto the barbecue. Trying to stop the rub blowing away today. There we go, it's ready to go on. Barbecue is set up for indirect cooking, temperature around 200 degrees C. We are going to add a couple of chunks of applewood in there just to get a little bit of smoke on the outside of this, but we'll get it on, get it cooked, and then we'll carve it up and see what it looks like on the inside. After 30 or 40 minutes on the barbecue and one rain shower later, the pork tenderloin is ready. You're looking for an internal temperature between 68 and 70 degrees C in the meat. Just make sure you're not taking your reading out of the centre of the stuffing. It has gone a lovely red colour, down to that rub, and a little bit of smoke on there as well. The stuffing has really softened up again and sort of held together. One thing left to do is give it a try. The tenderloin by name is nice and tender, so no problems there. A little bit of chorizo, plenty of pepper. Here we go. The first flavour you get is chorizo. Definitely the strongest flavour in there. But the more you chew, you start to get a little bit of sweetness off the peppers, and then the chili flakes and the chili oil sort of sneak up in the background, give you a little kick in the back of the throat, remind you you're awake. If you guys decide to give it a try, remember and tag me in your photos. I'll leave the full recipe for this in the description box down below if you want to click on it and get that. If you're looking for other cool things to make with pork, you can try out these pork belly burnt ends. They're on the screen now, and I'll see you again next week.